Hi, my name is Adriana, and I'm going to be your counselor today. I just want to let you know before we get started that everything you say in this room will stay in this room unless you plan on hurting yourself or hurting someone else. Is that okay?
Yeah, awesome.
Okay, so what brings you in here today?
Well, I came in today because I just found out that I am going to be getting a job promotion, and I'm really excited about this promotion. I was a janitor before at my company, the company that I currently work for, and being a janitor, it was really a love of mine. I enjoyed the job. Before I was a janitor, I actually worked at McDonald's. Working at McDonald's was great because when I was at McDonald's, I was able to have a lot of coworkers that we really bonded. I was able to have close contact with people, and I ended up actually being the manager of McDonald's for a long time. But anyway, so after my job at McDonald's, I ended up being a janitor, which I currently am now, until this week where I ended up getting a job promotion, and I'm going to be head of my company now. And I'm super excited about being head of the company because I've worked so hard. Finally, my hard work was seen at my company after I had scrubbed the floors every day, after I had mopped every single bathroom. I mean, it was just such a taxing job, but finally, even though I really loved it, I will say that I really did love being a janitor. But after all of that, finally, people have seen that I'm a hard worker, and I believe I deserve this position as head of the company.
Wow. Um, so how did that happen so quickly?
Yeah, I just was scrubbing the floors, doing my thing at the company as I do as the janitor. And finally, someone came out who was head of the company, or not head of the company, but was someone who was very high up in our company, saw me there working really hard. And he just said, "Wow, you're a really hard worker. You would be really great as head of this department." And then after being head of the department, they said, "You can be head of the company." So I just am really excited about this. I think this is going to be a great opportunity for me.
That sounds awesome. It really does. But that actually concludes the end of our session. But next week, we can talk some more about your feelings about your new promotion.
Okay, thank you.
Mhm.
So as their session ended, we're going to just go in and explain a little bit about what happened during the session. So you can see that the client had a blunted and flat effect. This is the lowest on the spectrum of effects. You could see that the client was very dull in her facial expression. And blunted and flat effect can be associated with depression and brain damage. You can also see that the client had an elated and euphoric mood, which is being on top of the world. In the client's tone of voice, she was very happy about everything that was going on. And then next, the client had a tangential form of thought. This is when the client starts talking about one thing and then detours to something else. An example of that from within the session was when the client was talking about her job as a janitor, and then she started talking about her job at McDonald's and went on and on about that. She detoured from the main topic, and that would be a tangential form of thought.
So, in the session from myself, the client, there was a lot of what's called racing thoughts taking place. So, racing thoughts is whenever the client goes from one thought to the next. Anytime that it pops into their head, it comes out of their mouth, and they just begin to talk about every thought that they think of. And all of that is combined, and it happens pretty rapidly. And this can be very overwhelming for the counselor specifically, because it's one of those things where, again, the client just continues to talk very rapidly, continues to talk about all of the thoughts that comes into their head, and sometimes the counselor may not know what to do in that moment, but of course with practice that can become a little bit easier of how to help a client whenever they are displaying racing thoughts. And so that is kind of what we were trying to show in this session and explain what racing thoughts really is from what was demonstrated in the video.
And lastly, we have grandeur thoughts, which is the false or unusual belief about one's greatness. And we saw this in our client when she said that she went from being a janitor to a CEO in a short amount of time, just because they noticed how great of a job she did cleaning, which we know is a little bit, and that right there is our example of grandeur thoughts.